today is we're going to share results from the Every Member Survey and the feedback from the information gatherings. That's the first handout, the top page. And then out of those information sessions, you guys generated 15 pages of questions. We have condensed those to the most frequently asked questions, which is a 2-page front and back, and you have that there. And we will walk through those kind of general questions and answers with members of the building committee. And then the third piece of paper is just to kind of talk about the motion that will be presented, that was approved by the council for the congregation consideration, and that's the third page. So we're going to take each one of those in turn. So, meeting and survey results. We're going to talk about, remember who the James Company was, a summary of the findings, our prioritized goal for the project, and then any questions you have just about the James Company report. First, who is the James Company? The James Company worked with us in the first capital appeal. The James Company conducted a preliminary study like we just did now to kind of gauge our readiness and what we could reasonably anticipate to raise. And actually, that whole process worked pretty well. I mean, when all is said and done, it's like, okay, that was okay, which is pretty high praise for a fund appeal project. You remember now, I always keep this in mind. The Reformation began over a fund appeal project. They were trying to raise money for St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and so they were selling indulgences. They were sort of pressing it a little too far. So I'm always mindful, of how building appeal projects can go. So we had success with them the first time. We said we're going to use them again because they know us, they have a sense for us, and so we conducted. They helped us conduct then those information gatherings and the survey, and they did some interviews as well. They will also help us. I'm outside of the. They will also help us with the fund appeal, so that they've been working this since COVID, so they kind of know how congregations are working with fund appeals. You just can't rinse repeat because the world is different, and so we rely on their expertise. That's something about the James Company. So we're going to then talk about the summary of findings, and first some background. The question is, are we ready to move forward with a capital appeal? That was sort of the basic question put before us. He said, John Clark, who is the owner and principal for the James Company, said, in my experience, when a congregation in a survey and so forth, if you have about 60%, who are in favor, 6-4, 3-2, you're ready to move forward as a congregation. And really what we're asking for is, if we're going to do this in the fall, are we ready to go forward so that we ask for a 3-year commitment that is over and above our regular giving to the general fund? It does not help to steal from the general fund and give to the building campaign. We sustain our giving to the general fund, and then we say, what else can I do and can our household do? And then he asked the question of, what can we expect to raise with a 3-year commitment, and what is likely within our ballpark? He said, we had about 165 people attend one of 13 information gatherings here at church or in neighborhood homes. Again, a thank you to all those who hosted in their homes. There are 146 written surveys returned, which also means a little bit more, because oftentimes a couple would attend a gathering, but they would submit one survey. So I would say 146 is closer to household, which maybe not quite double, but closer to that. 24 individuals were interviewed to kind of elicit more particular responses. And he said that is a great response on the part of a congregation of our size. And it's enough that he feels it's sufficient to draw conclusions or recommendations for going forward. We have enough of a sample size. So we're not asking 3 people, but we have enough from across the board. So on the critical question regarding whether we should conduct a capital campaign, yes was 83%, uncertain was 12%, no was 5, which in other words, it means not 3-2, but 4-1, which is a very strong response. And then the question is, you know, as I joked and we'll come back to this, you know, how many votes does it take to do a capital campaign, to do a building project? Just enough to pay for it, 1. And 2, that it's something we all do together. It's not like, yes, we should do a building project and we should ask you, you know, to pay for it. No, this is what we do together. So it also means about supporting that campaign, it's about the same response, 4-1. And since the favorable response to the question above is far beyond 60%, conclusion is a very strong consensus for moving forward with a capital campaign. Actually, John Clark said, if you don't do a capital campaign, you will be in trouble, because it's sort of like, what are we doing here? We're ready. So the objectives proposed by the building committee received broad support. Now, we all know the one objective that received the most comment was the new entrance. And there were some concerns expressed about the cost, or will it really, is it the best way to do the job of bringing people into the building other than through the administrative entrance? Even with those, you know, kind of questions or comments, it was still 60-20, which is still about, you know, 4-1, 3-1 in support of a new entrance. So it's still a strong response. Recommendations and next steps. So based on the strong positive findings found through the study, the James Company recommends that we proceed immediately with a capital campaign. And it is projected that we're able to raise conservatively about 2.5 to 3. He thought 3 was a more reasonable goal for the proposed objectives in the study. So as we say, how many votes does it take to do a building project? Just enough to pay for it. So what we have enough for is to pay for a $3 million building project. Now, somebody may come forward with $1 million gift that we weren't planning on, and then we can do other things. But with our best effort as a congregation going forward, that is the likely outcome. And you say, well, how does he get to those numbers? Well, he has experiences with congregations who, even though this campaign is not immediately after the other one, yet it is close. It is post-COVID. You know, we raised about 3.6, 3.7 the first time. You take about 80% and you get to 3 million. It's just how the math plays out and how churches behave. What are the timeline? So this summer, we would organize. We'll gather a fund appeal committee. We'll put together publicity and the material. In the fall, we will bring that information to you for your prayerful consideration. And then in November, we will have a commitment Sunday. We will have kind of a preparation, and we'll have a party with that and so forth. We may also have a pre-commitment, sort of like an early phase commitment in October. We're still in conversation, but that's kind of like how things will happen. So it will happen this fall if you vote to say, let's go ahead. That's the timeline. We have to remember, what did we talk about in these neighborhood gatherings and information centers? We said that there was a sort of a prioritize, an order by which we will do things. We'll pay off the debt. We'll take care of needed maintenance. We will then renew the spaces that we can, and we'll also reach out to ministry partners. And it's sort of like you might say, you know, as we go up, you know, those fundraising thermometers or whatever, you know, so as you go up the thermometer, you take care of each of the objective. That's essentially how we're dealing. First objective, we'll take care of the debt. The second objective, we'll take care of maintenance. The third and fourth objective, I think they're, you know, together, but we will take care of the new construction, renewing spaces as we have money. So you just sort of, as you go from one thing to the next. So I'm going to first, before we got the 4 goals, you know, any questions about the James Company report, the process and the findings. Okay. We're going to go on to the next, which is a question and answer from the building committee. So that is page 2, and it's sort of that Excel sheet. So if you kind of look way over in the left column, you'll see there are questions. I don't have it. There's questions about the plan or funding, about the debt. So there's sort of clusters, and maybe there's 2 or 3 individual questions within each of them. So that's how that's organized. Bob, do we have the 15-page report here, or is that just simply available upon request? Yeah, so there is every question or variance that you asked with a response. That report is available on request. You just go to the office, ask for it, and it'll be available. But we get lost in the details. So we've got a 2-page sort of summary report of the main questions. I'm going to pass it over to Bob for him to walk through those Q&A that you asked for clarification and so forth in the gathering process. And Bob, you have to stand here. I'm moving around and I'm in and out of the screen, so your turn.
There we go. Thank you, Pastor, for that and for the introduction here. I'm Bob Koenig, privileged to be chair of the building committee team that is working on the second phase here. Building committee members that are here, would you please stand up just so people can, so we got Randy, and we got Pat in the back, Bruce here up front, so 3 out of the 6 are here, so happy to have you guys here. Very happy. As Pastor said, on page 2 of the handout is where 30 questions out of about 215 pages worth of questions were asked, and we went through and just kind of consolidated because we wanted you to get out of here before noon today. But they're all available for you to look at. They all were taken into consideration by the building committee. So jumping right into the first one about priorities, do we have an established priority order? Follows right with the last slide that Pastor had there. First priority is retiring $545,000 of debt that's left over from phase 1 when we did the sanctuary. That amount was expected and planned, and that project came in on budget. And so thank you, Tom Olmsted and the former building committee group on that. Number 2, address necessary repairs and maintenance items. Number 3, renew key ministry areas. And number 4, provide a portion of the funds to support our ministry partners. The plan, will the building operation be shut down during construction? Those of you who remember, we went to the Westminster Church for a while, and we were down here in phase 1. That won't be happening in phase 2. We're going to be open the whole time. And there, at various times, there may be parts of the building that aren't accessible, but it won't shut us down by any stretch totally. Easy to operate around. What's the expected duration of the construction? It ranges from 15 to 18 months. That period would decrease by 6 months if the new entrance was removed from the project. And so we're in that period right now where we're still continuing to identify the costs here. And if the fundraising doesn't support the cost of a new entrance, then that was is probably going to be one of the items that will be removed from the project, just to be real honest with it right now, because I'm going to get into the cost here in two more items. Should we wait? Construction costs are high. Yeah, at the pandemic time and derecho and everything, the costs went crazy. And we've all been waiting for them to come down, but they haven't. And we don't believe they're going to. And Rinder Necht, our contractor, says don't hold your breath for that. In fact, he's expecting, John Baker, our primary guy we work with there, expects a 5% inflation per year going forward from the level that we're currently at. So that's why we're recommending to go forward now. It's not expected to go down. How does the cost of this phase compare to phase one? Phase one was completed on budget at a cost of $4.355 million. This phase is estimated to range from $3 million to $3.6 million for this current phase. What's the difference between the low and the high? That's pretty much what the new entrance would be. It's around $600,000, okay? If it weren't in the project, it'd be at $3 million. And again, why are we looking at that? Because the James Company said they believe realistically that we're at a $2.5 to $3 million fundraising opportunity here at our congregation. Funding, how much money was raised in the phase one project? In phase one, we raised a total of about almost 3.8 million, 3.7 from pledged and unpledged gifts, 25,000 memorials, 37,000 from interest earned, because we actually collected a chunk of phase one pledges before we even did construction. So we were able to invest that and have some interest. That won't be happening in this phase. All right. How long is the giving period for the capital campaign pledges? That'd be a 3-year giving period. Will we take out a loan to finance project expenses that are incurred before all pledges are received? Yes, we will. Farmers State Bank, our bank, will do a construction line of credit for us, which we can pull down when we have expenditures that exceed income, because we're likely to have that. We're going to launch the construction. We're going to be done in a 15 to 18 months or 9 to 12, depending upon with or without the entrance. But the pledges are going to come in over 3 years. So we're going to have that construction loan from them to help finance unless all of our donors choose to give their 3-year pledge up front. That'd be a great thing to see. Yes, in back.
What's our current interest rate on our 545,000?
So it's at 3%. That's probably a good lead into the other question about how are we financing the current project. It's an interchurch loan, so.
Better to keep that mortgage at 3% and borrow less on the construction loan?
Say again the question.
So would it be better to keep that 3% interest, since that's really low with current interest rate? Currently interest rates are a lot higher than 3%. It'd be better not to pay that off and keep that loan at 3% and borrow less on the construction loan.
So that loan is from ourselves, from our surplus funds that we are investing as a church in this. We are at the limit of the amount that we have there, and really as those funds are being needed for other dedicated accounts for which they were given, that'll be drawn back down. And so those funds that we're using of our own funds currently are going to be reducing and becoming less.
I think I get the question. maybe another way to think about it, that 545,000, we are just, it's a placeholder. We are self-funding, but we're not paying it down. We're just sort of holding it. The reason for the capital campaign is to pay it down, not just to pay interest, to pay it down. Your question, though, about how that is done, I kind of think about it, when we're at the end of 3 years, we will be whole. What I mean by that is we will have built the things that we agreed to build on at that time, we'll put out a contract, and then we will pay off that mortgage, not that mortgage, but that self-loan. It may be that self-loan, because it's 3%, will happen towards the end of the 3-year campaign, but when it's done, we're whole. So that may be more, so there's two questions there. One, it's not a mortgage, it's just sort of a self-loan that we're just kind of kicking the can down the road because we can. But when we're done with the 3-year campaign, we want to have that debt paid off. We want to have the projects that we said we're going to do paid off, and we're done, and we're whole. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
Who are we paying 3% interest to?
Ourselves, yeah. We're paying, the question is, who are we paying 3% interest to? And it's to ourselves, which is a good thing. It keeps it lower. Frankly, our other options for investing, if we didn't have this, if we weren't self-funding this loan, would yield us higher than 3% on those funds, right? Think about that. We pay that off. We can go out and get better than 3% on that money. Certainly, yes.
So with a construction loan, then I'm understanding that you'd only draw money as you need it. So when we think about this project potentially costing 3.6, we wouldn't even take almost 600,000 of that to pay off the balance, right? And you only take the construction loan as you spend the money, so it's not like you take a full 3 million at the beginning.
Yeah, maybe another way of thinking about it, in the total cost of the project, let's say $3 million, interest costs on construction loan, interest costs on the loan to ourselves, all of those costs are a part of that $3 million. So when we talk about the total project, we're trying to be as comprehensive so that when we come to the end, we're not saying, oh, I forgot to, I forgot something. We're trying, so we have interest rate, or not interest, we have inflation built in. We have a contingency beyond that built in. We have the cost of interest built in. So that, again, when we come to the end of 3 years, we'll be whole, and that we have tried to account for all of the expenses, both the cost of money and so forth in that.
Good point, thank you. All right. Will there be another fund appeal if we don't raise enough money to cover the cost in the Phase 2 project? No, there will not be another fund appeal. Okay, the scope of the project is going to be reduced to whatever the pledges are, or increased, but if you choose to go over 3.6 million, but we will scope the project to be in line with what our members are pledging to support it with. There won't be anything left over to be financed or done. Okay. Do we expect to pay off the balance of the Phase 1 debt? Yes, plus interest, as we've said. How's it currently being paid? Through a self-finance loan, like we've said, with low interest cost. Did we consider replacing the flat roof with a sloped version? We have on our building committee Pat Marshall, who works in the industry, so he knows roofs. And technically, the short answer to this is technically the roof is a low slope already. So when that the use of the insulation under the membrane slopes it from the building out to the gutters. So it's not purely flat. It's designed to move stuff off. It's just worn out. Now it's a sway back. Will the new AC units be state-of-the-art, energy efficient? Yes. We had a separate meeting recently with our contractor on this because AC is very expensive. They've picked Carrier units of higher quality and more energy efficiency than the ones that we currently have installed. There's no question that what we install here will be higher quality and more efficient than what we currently have. They looked at the next, what they call the next level up of energy efficiency and said, you know, it just won't pay back itself to your congregation because of most of the rooms that we have the AC in aren't used every day. A lot of them are classrooms that are used, once a week. And a lot of them are meeting rooms that are used maybe once a day. So it's not the typical usage scenario. And they say you could pay more, but you wouldn't get the payback because of your use of those units. Brick repair in the bell tower, is there use for the bell tower, or is it cheaper to remove than to repair? Well, we looked at that. Frankly, we didn't consider it seriously. We would have considered it more seriously if it would have been cheaper than repairing it, but it's definitely not. If you take the bell tower down and try to re-engineer, re-architect our church without that part of the original main structure, it would cost you a lot of money. And so we didn't pursue that any further. We just said, let's fix what we have there. And the damage is mostly on the inside. Those of you who went to the meeting saw pictures of that. It really needs it, or it'll come down on its own if we don't fix that. What changes are included in the plan for the LFC where we're sitting here? New paint, new carpet, restaining of the woodwork on doors and trim, new countertop. Those are the items from this room that are part of the plan. How many parking spaces will be lost? 5. How many handicap parking slots are we required to have? We're required to have 2. How many are included in the new plan? There are 6 in the new plan. Will a new parking lot eliminate the sources of water and ice accumulation? So, changes to the slope of the surface out there that are a key part of the plan that was designed by our civil engineering firm, HHE, will definitely reduce the accumulation of ice and water and provide paths for runoff that are not there today. Eliminate is kind of a final word. We hope that it does. Yes.
The parking lot situation only looked at if we do something with the entrance. Say for instance, you decide not to do the entrance. Does the parking lot then also phased out?
No. So if the new entrance was not to be included in, does the parking lot also phase out? No, frankly, most of the money that we're spending out there is in the attempt to reduce the slope, which is when you park today, change it to angled parking, improve the processional that you have from the PCI parking lot toward the entrance to our church, create a more inviting plaza area and a more obvious place to either stop at a new entrance or proceed on to the existing portico entrance if that's the money that we have. But we have to resurface that parking lot, so when you leave today, if you want to walk around, take a look at the cracks and everything else, that thing is well due to be eliminated. We're going to put curbs around it instead of those portable cement bunkers that you try to park in, run into, and you put them in the mulch area, and then we got to take those 200-pound behemoths and try to scoot them back onto, so that'll all be integrated as part of it. So the parking lot is really, and improving that whole drainage and stuff, and raising the surface so that when you come under the portico entrance, you no longer have a curb there. So when you get out of your vehicle there, you can come process without stepping up over a curb. So that's included in the parking dollars. We have to move the dumpsters per code, and we have to put an enclosure around them. So that's stuff that's necessary and still would be a part of that. How are we doing on time? Okay. Will there be a space for group gatherings just outside of the main entrance? Yes, that whole pedestrian plaza that's designed for that area. And again, whether it ends up being the plaza that serves a new entrance or the plaza that continues you forward to the portico entrance, it's going to be much more improved over what it currently is for other uses for us. In the narthex, what's done with the narthex area to make it more welcoming and inviting? Well, you name it. Improved lighting, raising the ceiling height by flattening out that curved ceiling in the walk area, removing all those arches and soffits that you see between the narthex and just outside of the main worship area. Eliminating 3 of the columns. There are 10 columns in there today, large columns. 3 of them will be gone because they're really not holding anything up. They're just there as a part of a decoration. The remaining ones will all be reduced by about 50%. So these big wide columns that break up that whole view of the narthex and the flow of it will be eliminated. Adding the single-use restroom, new furnishings, and new wayfinding signs. That's kind of the summary of the narthex. Will a new narthex still maintain spaces for more quiet and restful visiting for older adults? Yes. Our architect is providing us now with the way that the furnishings and flow and setup would enable that to continue to happen because it's an important part of the narthex up there. Coat room, where do we hang coats? If we convert that to a kitchenette, the option of portable, aesthetically pleasing coat racks is something we've looked at and can be done and would be part of the plan. If we don't do the new entrance, we won't move the kitchenette. So the coat room's still going to be there. So that's kind of the two sides of that one. Single-use restroom, what's the purpose? It's for family members requiring assistance, and it's more hospitable for those who want a single use. It's a very common direction in many public places and businesses. The handicap accessibility very much is easier there, and it's a lockable door. So, will any walls be moved or removed as part of our 3rd level remodel? Are we go way to the top now? No. All the walls up there will stay in place. Will any rooms besides, oops, I missed one here. What are the automatic locks on the 3rd level for? This is a safety feature that would enable us to lock down all of our classrooms immediately by a 1-button push. That'd be more than 1 button. located to do that. But in the event of the unthinkable, that's a piece of safety item that we would include. Level 1, will any rooms besides 111 and 112 be needed for the youth area expansion? No. So the rest of the rooms down here aren't going to be changing at all. But way at the end of the hall, the two rooms, 111 on the left and 112, the current youth room, is where we're combining those together for the youth to use. Will a new youth room be made available to youth more often than it is today? So I talked to Michael. Yes, in anticipation of increased demand of a space that really is appealing toward youth. His committee is looking to expand the hours. The biggest challenge there is finding adult volunteers that would have to be there during those open hours per our First Lutheran safety policy. So it's a staffing thing more than, well, could you put a pass card in there and let the youth come in and out of it whenever they want to? No, that isn't planned, all right, to happen. But expect to see it open more frequently. Are changes and improvements being planned for existing entrances in addition to the new entrance? Yes, all entrances have identified changes related to replacing the wind-damaged doors, removing the dark tinted windows so you can actually see inside, brighter lighting, and better wayfinding signs. Other entrance question, the biggest one that's kind of surfaced during all this, will the benefits of the new proposed entrance outweigh the cost to add it? Do we have other options that could provide some of the benefits at a much lesser cost? Has the building committee explored these options in depth? Yes, the new entrance does come at a higher cost in the range of about $600,000 for that entrance. Then some of the other alternatives involving changing the portico entrance and continuing to process to that portico entrance, but making changes that make it more welcoming and findable by guests. We have explored this alternative with our architect as a building committee and have a pretty good understanding from him of what he would propose be done if the funding doesn't allow us to do the new entrance. And it would significantly reduce that cost in that entrance area. Last question, will the congregation have a chance to suggest who to include in our ministry partners list? Yes, we would. Yes, you will, and yes, we would welcome. And yes, we want to identify the places that you feel are most importantly to share part of our fundraising with in terms of our ministry partners. So let us know.
Okay. You may have some questions for the building committee and for Bob, but I'm going to walk through the motion and then we'll reserve that time for individual conversation with them at the end of our time together, if that's okay. I don't need both. Okay, turn the page. Thank you. This is the motion that the council have prepared to bring to you next Sunday, and it's very intentional in terms of how it is put together. So the motion reads, the congregation authorizes the church council to contract with the James Company to conduct a capital campaign to raise funds for the following purposes. And so again, we talked about that order. So this is the order. First, to pay off the remaining balance on the sanctuary project of about $545,000. And then the second, to address necessary repairs and maintenance. And again, there is an order to that. First, to take care of the flat roof, then to take care of the AC units, then to take care of the brick and mortar, then to repair rust damage on the surfaces and leaky window seals, then to replace the damaged doors on our drive-through entrance in the 3rd Avenue, then to refurbish the elevator, then to replace the worn floor coverings, and then to paint walls and stains and doors and so forth. Once those things are done, then the next thing would be to say to renew key ministry areas. And the first thing there is to address the parking lot. And then the second would be to address the narthex and the welcome area. And then the third and the fourth would be the 3rd floor children's ministry area, the 1st floor youth room. Now we understand that, you know, when plans and everything comes together, how we accomplish B, C, and D will give some flexibility to the building committee to, you know, based on what we raise to make that happen. And then finally, E, the main entry into the building. What's most likely the case with a $3 million goal is that we will seek to accomplish the programmatic goals of providing welcome to new people through a clear sense of procession, and I can see where I'm supposed to go. It'll say, come here, main door, there'll be a First Lutheran logo, you know where you're supposed to go. We will hide or de-emphasize the administrative entrance. Some have said, just lock it. You all can just, but we won't probably be that aggressive. But maybe do it in a way that, by the time you make your way to the admin, you might as well just go in through the door. You could do there are ways to do that. And then with that, to provide a defined portion of funds to the designated ministry partners in accordance with our mission. And, I would say 3 and 4 kind of will work that together in the final plan. Now thinking about, okay, we can anticipate to raise $3 million. It'll cost about $3.6, $3.7, to do a new entry. Let's say we raise $3.3. If we did a new entry, that means we'd still have a $300,000 debt, which means we would not have done the first goal that we said we were going to do. So it is a high bar, for us probably to be able to do that new entry. It's not impossible, but it's a high bar. Now, the other thing I'm going to encourage everybody, especially as we come to the fall, is to say, oh, if I'm not doing the new entry, I can take 15% off my pledge. Folks, it is going to take all of us giving our best shot to make $3 million. It is still going to take gifts of $100,000 to $200,000 to get to $3 million. This just doesn't happen on its own. So it is well within our capacity and our ability, but it also is well within our best effort to make that happen. Notice the last paragraph. The final determination of what will be accomplished within the project will be based on the total amount pledged by the congregation. And a final plan and budget will be presented for approval after the campaign and before contracts are signed. As we said, as a congregation, we have 3 votes. This next vote is the easy one. Yeah, let's go ahead. You can ask me for money. The next one is, the vote of our pocketbook, the vote of our commitments, our pledges. And then once we have all of that, then we say, well, this is what we have, and what are we going to do? As Bob said, or somebody has asked, well, is there a third campaign hiding in the wings? I think of it more this way. By God's grace, we have what we need. We will, with our best effort, the Spirit will give us what we need. And then out of that, we will align our vision and our plans with, what God has provided through our shared endeavor. And it is, and then we'll say, let's do it, let's celebrate, and move on. By God's grace, we have what we need. So, next Sunday, we will be taking up the motion, and We'll have a little bit of preliminary. We're not going to go through all of this material next Sunday. So I thank you for being here today. And there's Bob, and there is Randy, and there is Pat, and there is somebody else who's in the, and Bruce is upstairs playing. If you have any further questions, you are free to ask them. Thank you for your time and attention. God be with you.